All right, I'm happy to bring in USF head coach Chris Gerlufsen. He's going to entering, I believe it's season number 3 on the Hilltop now, and it's been a really fascinating offseason for you guys. How's it been so far? And how's the team looking? I know you got your first day with them today.
Yeah, no, it's been a mile a minute. First off, thanks for having me on. Always good to connect with you and talk some WCC hoops. But we're extremely excited. It's been a chaotic kind of last few months, but one that's been really positive for us. And we're kind of chomping at the bit to get back at it. First day of workouts today with our new group. So I don't know where the time's gone, but it's time to get back at it, and we're excited.
Yeah, you had a busy off season to this point, and you've picked up some really nice pieces to fill in some of the gaps where obviously you knew you were going to lose a few guys, and you were able to pick up Jason Rivera Torres, Carlton Lingard Jr. Just kind of talk about like what the new guys are going to kind of bring in, or like what's kind of like your outlook of what they are going to bring to the table next year.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to first make sure we added guys that were going to mesh with the current guys on the roster. And, when a season ends, you always try to reevaluate and see some of the holes or the areas that you want to continue to try to improve on. And I think we identified some of that and made sure that we added some really talented guys that are going to help continue to try to elevate our program. And Carl and Jason, I think, are going to be two guys who have great college experience already. We're going to have a chance to really be a positive impact for our team and hopefully continue the upward trend for us.
Yeah, and those two guys again, like coming from, I think it was a UTSA and then also Vanderbilt. Again, like you saw Jason a year ago
Yeah.
playing against Vanderbilt. Was when you had to play against him, was it kind of like was that an opportunity where he got put on your radar? Was like how did like these guys get kind of like make you think like these guys could be good fits with our program?
Yeah, I mean, because of the way college basketball is now, you constantly have to have your eyes open, and we're always evaluating guys on other teams and other programs, just with a casual eye. And so when we were preparing to play Vanderbilt, we always, as a staff, when we're going through the scout, kind of pick or choose one or two guys off of each team we're about to play who we would say, man, they'd be a really good fit in our program. And Jason, heading into the Vanderbilt game, I was really worried, in preparing for them about him. I just thought he had a really good talent level. I thought, for a freshman, he had some swagger to him. So we just kind of casually kind of watched him as the year went on. Obviously, watch a lot of SEC games because watching Todd Golden at Florida and had a chance to watch him multiple times. And when he wound up going in the transfer portal, we put our hat in the ring with him, and we're lucky to get him. So I think he's going to be a really good addition. And Carlton, we're always, looking for bigs that are skilled and have the ability to affect the game in a lot of different ways. And him being 7 foot and having the ability to step out and shoot the ball and has really good athleticism for a big, he kind of checked a lot of the boxes in terms of what we were looking for.
And I'm thinking about that, like his addition. Initially, it was almost like, well, that could be a great pairing with Jonathan Mogbo, who at that stage could still have return. But as we now know, Jonathan was going to stay in the NBA draft. So, kind of like, how does that kind of change maybe the expectations for Carl might have been, or maybe just like, does that impact that at all based on just the roster shift that did happen in the last few weeks?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we added someone who was going to have the ability to play with Jonathan or not play with him. And we viewed Carlton as a guy who could play one of two different positions. He played a lot at the 4 at UTSA this last year, but I think he's more naturally suited to be at the 5, especially with how we play. So we were cognizant on our end to make sure we were covering all our bases. Obviously, when the season ended, didn't know exactly what was going to happen with Jonathan, but I was sure that if he took care of his business and went through the process, I was pretty confident that he was going to stay in the draft. Our staff just thought that he would impress people the more they had a chance to see him. And so we wanted to make sure we had something kind of in the background to slide in and take his place. And I think Carlton will be a really exciting player for our program, and he'll fit in really well with DeWato Newberry. I think those guys will really have a chance to kind of play off one another.
Yeah, want to talk a little bit more about Jonathan, because again, he entered the NBA, got invited to the draft combine. He did really well there. Obviously, he caught some eyes because he ended up staying in the draft. Kind of talk about, like, from the time in which you recruited him a year ago and he came in, and obviously the great season that he had. What 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 were some of the things that you saw that led you to things like, yeah, this is a guy who's going to impress, and as even your coaches said, like, this, he's got the skills. If scouts whatnot get to see him, he's going to impress. What kind of talk about his journey over the last year, because obviously this is not the conversation we would have had about him a year ago, and now he's here on the cusp of getting drafted.
Yeah, I think it speaks to, I mean, this is a pretty cool story, number one. Just to think about where he was a year ago to where he is right now is pretty unheard of. Going from averaging 8 points and 7 rebounds to now having a chance to be a NBA draft pick. First off, speaks a lot to him and just kind of his character and his makeup. He's worked for everything he's gotten, and his path to get to this point has been, a little bit off the beaten path. Having to go to 2 different JUCOs, and he's bounced around a little bit, but he's a worker and he's a sponge, and so we had a very good idea of what he was going to be for us when we got him last year, and he blew those expectations out of the water. And he was a really fun guy to coach, because as a guy who's kind of driven offensively, it felt like every week we were finding out something new and different that he had the ability to do. And to the point where, at the end of the season, he's a guy bringing the ball up and initiating offense for us. And but that's all a credit to him. I think our system provided him the opportunity to do that. And I think it's just a really cool kind of reflection of what just an opportunity in the right place can do for you. And, he took it and ran, and I'm so proud of him. And this is part of why you coach. People say, well, aren't you so disappointed he's not coming? I'm so happy that he gets to put our name. Hopefully we hear USF's name, called on draft night, and that hasn't happened in 42 years. So it's a pretty cool experience for not only him, but our program.
Yeah. And what sort of conversations did happen at the end of the year? Did you talk to him about, like, what his decision-making process was? Did he ask you, like, hey, like, what do you think? What did he go to the coaches? What was kind of that process at the end of the year when he was starting to kind of make these decisions?
Yeah, it's funny, the night we lost in the NIT at Cincinnati, after the game, everybody was disappointed, and we were having a late dinner. And I just pulled him outside, and we kind of talked about, the next few months had a chance to get kind of crazy for him. And, he was pretty adamant about, Coach, I'm either coming back to USF or I'm going to go in the NBA draft, and did not talk about transfer portal. It was USF or NBA. And, he was very kind of clear that he was going to go through the process and see what kind of feedback he got. And as we've gone and the process is drawn out, he's climbed up the mock drafts and the rankings, and put himself in a really good position. So the lines of communication were always open, and we have that kind of relationship, not only me with him, but our whole staff. And, again, this is part of why you coach. You want guys to have the opportunity to play at the highest level. And so we wanted to make sure we were supportive of him, throughout the whole process.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw all the skills that he really brought to the table, and as you pointed out, like just it seemed like we started to learn more and more about the type of player and his ability, his skill set as the year went on. So I'm pulling for him too. Like again, like I can wear the USF hat too, and like from my grad school and everything else. So yeah, I'm wishing Jonathan all the best. So with the guys that are coming back, you have again a lot of really key pieces coming back. You have Marcus Williams coming back. You have Duito Newberry coming back. You have a lot of the key pieces returning. Kind of talk about like just maybe a little bit more of the continuity that you guys are going to have going into this year, where you didn't really have that as much going into last season.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of exciting new players, not only the transfer portal guys, but some of the freshmen that have joined our program we're really excited about. But it was really important for us to kind of maintain and keep that core group together. And you have 4 guys returning who received one way or another WCC honors, in Marcus Williams and Ryan Beasley being freshman of the year in the conference, Malik Thomas, who really came on the last half of the year, and Dueto Newberry. So those are 4 guys right there that really understand and know what we're about. And there's really good continuity with those guys. And we wanted to make sure, for us to have a chance to make another jump as a program, had to keep that group together. And so I'm really excited about them. I think they're hungry to make another jump. And they're great kind of representations of what our program is all about.
Yeah, and just thinking about those key pieces again, like you have guys that because it felt like because Malik really came on really like right there in the middle of the season, and we saw what he was capable of. Marcus was kind of that guy all year long. Duito, we saw for the moments that he would have throughout the course of the year, and Ryan might be like maybe the best sophomore going into the year in the WCC, or at least like early on, you can definitely make that case. As you start to think about like how these pieces are going to intertwine with the pieces you're bringing in, how excited are you to kind of think about like where you were this past season and maybe what you guys are the capability and what you guys have the potential of doing this coming year?
Yeah, we just number one. I mean, we have a lot of work to do, and that's why I'm excited to get these summer workouts going, because every team is different, and you find different strengths and weaknesses as the longer you spend with a group. So I'm excited to kind of dive in and see what the strengths are going to be of this team and what we need to get better at. But I do like our roster. I do. And I think we have a chance. And as we continue to build our program, you just want to make sure you're doing this. And so in year 1 to get 20 wins and then to go to 23. And now we're talking about what's next, and how do we make that next jump from being a NIT team to being an NCAA tournament team. And we're going to talk about that at length and remind these guys on a daily basis just how important every day is together.
Yeah, and one of those tasks throughout the course of the season obviously is going to be picking up some of those big wins in the non-conference, and you guys have a really good opportunity in your mid multi-team event, the Sunshine Classic. You have Clemson, Fordham, Penn State. That Thanksgiving week. Kind of talk about just again, like as you start to build this structure, the non-conference schedule, what this looks like now, knowing 18 games for WCC play, how you're starting to think about what the opportunities, and again, thinking about a year ago where there were some missed opportunities in those games, what can be done to kind of make sure, and then think about this, you have some guys who kind of went through I don't want to experience this again,
Yeah.
and got close. Just thinking about how this is all structured, how you're structuring it, and going to pitch it to these guys with, again, a lot of really good opportunities in the non-conference.
Yeah, we want to make sure that, we're playing enough of those quality games in our non-conference schedule where if you handle your business, you have a chance to be in conversation, as the season winds down. And, so we're continuing to try to finish out our non-conference schedule here. But I think on paper, as it's become even harder to schedule at our level because of the realignment and the Power Five is kind of almost monopolizing scheduling. I do think we've done a pretty good job of finding those quality games, in the non-conference. So we'll have Memphis here in the Chase Center. I think that'll be a really attractive kind of top 30 type game. I think they have a chance maybe even to be a top 25 team heading into the season. Our MTE, as you spoke of, I think will give us two really good quality opportunities. And I believe we have St. Louis coming here and playing on the Hilltop. And we're going to continue to add. We have Boise here, in San Francisco. So we're going to continue to try to add those games that have a chance to really bolster your resume. And we got to win those games, and not win all of them, but, put ourselves in the conversation. And as I said, everything is about continuing to just try to elevate our program.
And thinking about like those matchups, and obviously we talked about realignment a little bit. There are two new teams in the WCC this year: Washington State and Oregon State. Obviously, being two West Coast teams, pretty familiar with at least like what they're about and who they look like. Even though I think both those teams are going to look wildly different than they did a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of talk about just the addition of those two, at least for the next couple of years. And then also we had the announcement of Grand Canyon in Seattle just a few weeks ago as well. And then they're coming in. Grand Canyon, obviously a team that you guys are familiar with, have been matched up with them a few times over the last few years.
Yeah, I think in the short term, adding Oregon State and Washington State, I think it was a really kind of calculated, smart move by Stu Jackson and his staff, in the conference office. I think that just on paper, it has a chance to give us two more quality opponents in the league, and I think each of those teams has a chance to be, top 100 type teams, which is good for our league. Two really good coaches in David Riley and Wayne Tinkle, both those guys, really impressive. And those will be positives for our league, in the short term. And then to have the chance to add Seattle U and Grand Canyon, again, two really quality programs, two quality coaches. And I think it's all about how do we raise the profile of the WCC, and so I like just kind of the forward action by Stu and his staff in terms of trying to, again, just elevate our league. And we know how good it is. You know how good it is and how competitive it is. But now it's time to hopefully the rest of the country can see, just how good it is.
Yeah, these four definitely are going to like raise at least the amount of attention over the next few years. And it's going to be wild. Back to 11 teams this coming season, up to 13 next year, which will be a different wild conversation and conference play to be had. There's one more thing as we kind of like hit the road. What have you been able to actually get off the coaching train at all? Because again, like I know, like you had, like we went straight into the recruiting season. You're starting off practice this week. Have you been able to have a break and have been able to get out of town any?
It's been tough. We've found a couple days here or there, to try to recharge and unwind a little bit. But just given the calendar and the way that the portal is gone, it's been tough. But we'll find some time to recharge in August. I think that'll be a good time for our staff and our team, as we head into the new year. But it's a new world we're living in for sure. And I think it's important, though, too, to find ways to kind of detach and get away and recharge. And, but we'll get to that in August once we get through our summer workouts.
All right. Thanks, Coach, for hopping on. It's always great to talk with you. And we will definitely catch up as we get a little closer to the season.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Zach.